Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Bibliophila, where I discuss books that inspire us, enrich our minds and broaden our mental horizon. Let's begin today's episode with a review of yet another book. Today, I'll be talking about a book, Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. This novel was first written in 1847 based on the themes of humanism, feminism, and moral teachings. It explains the need of treating women as being equal to men and symbolizes women empowerment. It says that women feel just as men do, the need to exercise their faculties, a field for their efforts, just as much as their brothers do. They suffer from too rigid a restraint, too absolute a stagnation, precisely as men would suffer. It is selfish and illogical of men who are more privileged than women are to think that girls should confine themselves to making puddings and knitting socks. There are episodes in the novel Jane Eyre that depict phases from Charlotte Bronte's own life. For example, Charlotte Bronte and her sisters attended a school which was run by a headmaster almost as severe as Mr. Brocklehurst in Jane Eyre. Charlotte Bronte's two sisters died due to tuberculosis, just like Jane's only friend Helen Burns. Charlotte was herself a governess before she turned to writing. This novel follows the story of Jane Eyre, a seemingly simple and plain girl who battles through many of life's struggles. Her life has many obstacles, such as her cruel and abusive Aunt Reed, the grim conditions at Lowood School, her love for Mr. Rochester and Mr. Rochester's marriage to Bertha. But she overcomes all these obstacles through sharp wit, courage and determination. The novel begins when Jane Eyre is only about 10 years of age, trapped in her cruel Aunt Reed's house at Gateshead Hall, a luxurious mansion. She had lost her parents only when she was a baby and she was sent to live with her mother's brother, Mr. Reed. Unfortunately, Mr. Reed died after a few years and made his wife take an oath by his deathbed that she would love Jane and take care of her as her own child. Mr. Reed was a kind and benevolent man, but Mrs. Reed, after Mr. Reed's death, continuously abused and tortured Jane and made her feel like a burden on her family. She did not let Jane play with any of her own daughters, Eliza and Georgiana, who were vain, selfish and arrogant. Mrs. Reed's son, John Reed, even physically abused Jane, but Mrs. Reed appeared to have not noticed anything. Once Jane tried to hit John Reed back, but instead she was punished and locked up in the Red Room, which was supposed to be haunted. She fainted there out of fear, but Mrs. Reed paid no heed to it whatsoever. Mr. Lloyd, a doctor, advised Mrs. Reed that she should send Jane Eyre to school so that she may become a respectable young lady in society. Mrs. Reed sent Jane to a charity boarding school by the name of Lowood School, which was run by a man, Mr. Brocklehurst, who was abusive, cruel and hypocritical. Mr. Brocklehurst preached poverty and privation and used the school's fund to provide an opulent and wealthy lifestyle for his own family. Madam, he pursued, I have a master to serve whose kingdom is not of this world. My mission is to mortify in these girls the lusts of the flesh, to teach them to clothe themselves with shamefacedness and sobriety, not with braided hair and costly apparel. And each of the young persons before us has a string of hair twisted in plaits which vanity itself might have woven. These, I repeat, must be cut off. Think of the time wasted off. Mr. Brocklehurst was here interrupted. 3 other visitors, ladies, now entered the room. They ought to have come a little sooner to have heard his lecture on dress, for they were splendidly attired in velvet, silk and furs. The 2 younger of the trio, fine girls of 16 and 17, had grey beaver hats, then in fashion, shaded with ostrich plumes, and from under the brim of this graceful headdress fell a profusion of light tresses, elaborately curled. The elder lady was enveloped in a costly velvet shawl trimmed with ermine, and she wore a false front of French curls. These ladies were deferentially received by Miss Temple as Mr. and Mrs. Brocklehurst, and conducted to seats of honour at the top of the room. It seems they had come in the carriage with their reverend relative, and had been conducting a rummaging scrutiny of the rooms upstairs, while he transacted business with the housekeeper, questioned the laundress, and lectured the superintendent. They now proceeded to address divers remarks and reproofs to Miss Smith, who was charged with the care of the linen and inspection of the dormitories, but I had no time to listen to what they said. Other matters called off and enchained my attention. Mr. Brocklehurst illustrates the dangers and hypocrisies that Charlotte Bronte perceived in the 19th century evangelical movement. Jane met Helen Burns at Lowood School, a girl she admired and looked up to. Burns was a model student, obedient, enduring, submissive, and tolerating. She tolerated all the whips and lashes inflicted upon her by her teachers without a word, and even without retaliating. She was brought up in the strictest moral system possible. Hush, Jane, you think too much of the love of human beings. You are too impulsive, too vehement. The sovereign hand that created your frame and put life into it has provided you with other resources than your feeble self, or than creatures feeble as you. Besides these earth, and besides the race of men, there is an invisible world and a kingdom of spirits. That world is round us, for it is everywhere, and those spirits watch us, for they are commissioned to guard us. And if we were dying in pain and shame, if scorn smote us from all sides, and hatred crushed us, angels see our tortures, recognize our innocence, if innocence we be, as I know you are of this charge which Mr. Brocklehurst has weakly and pompously repeated at second hand from Mrs. Reed, for I read a sincere nature in your ardent eyes and on your clear front, and God waits only a separation of spirit from flesh to crown us with a full reward. Why then should we ever sink overwhelmed with distress when life is so soon over and death is so certain an entrance to happiness, to glory? This represents the lack of humanism and more interest in heavenly things and God rather than human feelings. Unfortunately, Helen Burns died due to consumption, too happy in the thought that she was finally beginning her true life, ignorant of the fact that she had wasted her years of life on earth, too happy thinking that when she would reach God. Typhus hit the school in May, killing hundreds of pupils. Later, the cause of the disease was discovered, and it was said that the pupils died due to improper hygiene and unclean food and clothing provided to them. Mr. Brocklehurst believed that starving his pupils was the only way to teach them certain moral values. So, the school's funds were trusted to the management of a committee, new regulations were imposed, and some wealthy people donated to build a new school in a different location in proper environments. Jane Eyre worked at Lowood School as a teacher and studied there as a student for almost 8 years. Then she started working as a governess to a French girl named Adele at Thornfield Hall. There she met nice respectable people like Mrs. Fairfax, Adele her French nurse, Mr. Rochester, and many more. Adele was an orphan, and Mr. Rochester, the master of Thornfield Hall, had taken her as his ward. Mr. Rochester is portrayed to be a broody, quiet, and hot-tempered gentleman. Although he loved Adele heartily, he was kind and generous towards Adele, but got irritated when she tried to talk to him freely. His initial conversations with Jane also portrayed him to be a grave kind of man, but he was also unique, and he encouraged Jane to pursue her dreams, and he understood her desires and ambitions. Once Jane even saved Mr. Rochester from a fire which was claimed to have started by a drunken servant by the name of Grace Poole. But Grace Poole continued to work at Thornfield Hall even after her mistake, and Jane thought that she had not been told the true story. She also started noticing strange happenings around the house, like the master's continued absence from the house, and she also heard demonic laughs coming from the third-story attic. Jane sank into despair when Mr. Rochester brought home a beautiful yet vicious woman by the name of Blanche Ingram. The two were supposed to be engaged to be married soon, and this brought out feelings of sadness in Jane. She understood that she was in love with Mr. Rochester even though he was almost double her age. Mr. Rochester was not a handsome man in the traditional sense, but Jane felt a connection with him because of their intellectual communion. Mr. Rochester proposed to Jane instead, which she accepted disbelievingly. The day of the wedding arrived, and as Jane and Mr. Rochester were preparing to take their vows, the voice of Mr. Mason interrupted them. Mr. Mason identified himself as the brother of a woman named Bertha, whom Mr. Rochester had married as a young man in Jamaica. Bertha was still alive, and this meant that Jane could not marry Mr. Rochester. Mr. Rochester did not deny those claims and took the party back to Thornfield Hall, where they all witnessed a mad woman by the name of Bertha crawling about the floor like an animal and growling in pain and disgust. Mr. Rochester told the party that Bertha had gone mad, and that's why he had locked her up in the third-story attic and employed a servant by the name of Grace Poole to look after her. This was the reason of his continued absence from Thornfield Hall. Bertha was the actual reason behind the mysterious fire earlier in the story, and she was the one who had those demonic laughs which Jane had heard. Jane understood that she could not live with Mr. Rochester, so she escaped Thornfield Hall. Penniless and devastated, she was reduced to begging for food and sleeping out of doors. Fortunately, the River siblings St. John, Diana and Mary took Jane in and helped her regain her strength. They became fast friends and almost family. St. John secured Jane a position as a teacher at a school, and Jane also realized that her uncle John Eyre was dead, and she had inherited a vast fortune of more than £20,000. She also discovered that the River siblings were actually her cousins, and she was more than happy to share her fortune with them. St. John asked Jane Eyre to accompany him to India on a missionary trip as his wife. But Jane refused the offer because that would mean compromising her capability of passion in a loveless marriage. Instead, she was drawn to thoughts of Mr. Rochester and sought him out at Thornfield Hall after feeling a mystical connection with him. She observed that Thornfield Hall had been reduced to ashes in a fire which was started by Bertha. Bertha had died in the fire, and Mr. Rochester had lost his eyesight and one arm and was currently residing in Ferndean, an estate nearby. He was overjoyed to see Jane and recounted his story of the mystical connection that he had also felt. They were soon married, and Mr. Rochester regained his eyesight in one eye and beheld the sight of their first child. I sincerely hope that you have liked this analysis of the book Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. If you have, please do not forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. I have provided the links of my previous videos in the description below so that you may watch them. I'll be back again with an analysis of yet another book. Till then, keep reading.